What is up, basketball fans, and welcome back to my channel, Young Baller Talks, where I like to break down some stuff that took time in NBA history, such as rivalries. And one rivalry I want to take a deep dive into is one that I would like to say it's more of a one-sided rivalry. The rivalry that took place in the modern era of the NBA that took place over 5 years, from 2015 to 2019. And now, this being, let's say that these two teams gave us some of the most unforgettable battles. The rivalry between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets on the court. But I'm going to break down this series as a whole. Now, this rivalry wasn't just about two teams, but it was still really fun to watch. I want to talk about mostly the two players that were clashing together, going head to head. And on one side, let's look at the Warriors. You have a dynasty, stacked roster, super team, with the Splash Brothers, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, as well as Draymond Green and Kevin Durant coming along with the mix. This rivalry, I'd say, was more of a Steph Curry versus James Harden rivalry, because those two were the ones from the beginning in 2015 and to 2019 to end it off. Because Steph Curry was mostly the main guy on the Warriors, and Kevin Durant didn't get there till 2017. He only faced off against Houston in this rivalry twice, Curry 4 times. And looking at the Rockets on the other side, they had James Harden, MVP caliber James Harden, who was averaging 40 at one point, and with the head coach of brilliant offense, Mike D'Antoni. Now, this rivalry kicked off in the 2015 Western Conference Finals, where the Warriors had broken out, won 67 games under head coach, and they were on a mission to prove that they weren't just a team that won 67 games one time and was going to completely collapse in the playoffs. No, they wanted to win in 2015. And the Rockets, they were led by James Harden and Dwight Howard, who were unstoppable force, who made the Western Conference Finals, beating Dirk's Mavericks in round 1 and coming back from down 3-1 against the Lob City Clippers. The Warriors also made the Western Conference Finals this year, taking down Anthony Davis's Pelicans and Marc Gasol's Memphis Grizzlies. And the Warriors were able to come out on top in this series, and they won in the 2015 Western Conference Finals over the Houston Rockets in 5 games, went on to play LeBron's Cavaliers in the finals, and got their first ring in this era. First time, pretty good matchup with the Warriors and Rockets. I know it ended up in 5 games, but the Warriors just dominated this series. The thing is, Dwight Howard honestly didn't really fit that well next to James Harden's playstyle. I feel like that was a bit of a problem too. But that's with the first part of this. Let's get into the second matchup that took place of this rivalry in the playoffs, where it was the 2016 Western Conference first round matchup, where the Warriors, who had the greatest regular season ever, winning 73 games and losing 9 games only, and the Rockets were in the complete opposite mix of the things, because the year before, the Rockets were 2nd in the West. This year, they're 8th in the West. And they made the playoffs because of James Harden carrying the team on his back. And this wasn't even a close series either. The Warriors manhandled the Rockets in 5 games. Honestly, I could say this is a rivalry that wasn't really a rivalry because the Warriors won every time. But when you face off against the same team every year in the playoffs, it gets to the point where it's a rivalry, I feel like. Because let's take a look into football for perspective. There was a rivalry between Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And the thing with the Brady-Mahomes rivalry is, I know they played twice and Brady won both times, but like they faced off more than one time in the playoffs, and Brady did end up winning twice though. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to get back into the basketball side of things. Now, let's take a look at fast forwarding to the 2017 playoffs, and the Rockets, they improved their roster pretty much. They got rid of Dwight Howard, but they added in Eric Gordon, Brian Anderson, Lou Williams, which gave them some firepower. But the thing is, this year, after the past 2 years of facing the Warriors in the playoffs, the Rockets didn't even get to the Western Conference Finals to play the Warriors. They actually got 40 ounce bounced by the San Antonio Spurs, who were missing their star player Kawhi Leonard in that 6th game. I like to say James Harden choked because he had 1 game in the series with 10 points. He had a chance to send Game 5 to overtime, but got blocked by Manu Ginobili at the buzzer, and there's that. The Rockets didn't even make it to the conference finals to play the Warriors this year. Now, this is the part of the series where it actually gets pretty interesting. Because I think in 2018, the Western Conference Finals was the best chance the Rockets had at beating the Warriors in the playoffs. And had the Rockets won this series, I think that they could have easily won the NBA Finals. Both teams Coming in, this time the Rockets have the 1 seed, and Chris Paul joining the team this year made the Rockets so much better. James Harden even had an MVP caliber year too. The Rockets dominated to get to the conference finals. Now let's look at the Warriors side of things. The Warriors, they were the 2 seed, and they were missing Steph Curry in round 1 of the playoffs against San Antonio, but he ended up coming back eventually in that series, and the Warriors ended up winning. The Pelicans gave them a good fight in like the first 2 games, but then the Warriors just dominated that to get to the conference finals. And looking at the 2018 Western Conference Finals between both of these teams, this is where I think the rivalry peaked. Top of the prime of this rivalry, it peaked here, because the Rockets had the best record in the NBA with 65 wins, led by MVP candidate James Harden and the point guard Chris Paul, to be improving the playmaking and leadership. That Rockets team was assembled to primarily beat Golden State. Now, Houston, they could have won. They went up 3-2 in Game 5 before Chris Paul got injured, and then the Rockets had a terrible collapse, losing in Game 6 because Game 6 Clay exists, and against Golden State in Game 7, where they missed 27 three-pointers in a row. And now, I'm going to say one thing here. I don't really get into rigged games and stuff like that. If you want to say that Game 7 with Houston and Golden State was rigged, so the refs missed so many foul calls, go ahead. Yes, the refs missed so many foul calls that I feel like could have changed things, but still, the Rockets, you can't miss 27 straight threes in a Game 7 and then end up losing. You're playing the defending champions for a reason. You're playing the Steph Curry and Kevin Durant Warriors for a reason. There's no excuse why you should be missing 27 straight threes. And that happens. The Warriors end up coming back in that Game 7 from down 15. The Rockets actually blew multiple leads in Game 6 and Game 7 over 10 points, which ended up leading to the Warriors comeback and Warriors advancing to the finals to play LeBron James and ultimately winning their 2nd championship in a row. Finally, let's look at the last matchup from this era that took place in the playoffs, 2019. Now again, James Harden having an MVP caliber year. He averaged 36 points in the regular season. Chris Paul still around. The Rockets this year actually did not look that good. They brought in Carmelo Anthony, which I hate talking about the Rockets because Carmelo Anthony is a top 5 favorite player of mine. So talking about Carmelo Anthony playing for the Rockets, it bothers me so much, but I'm just going to say this. Melo did not fit well with the Rockets. I'm glad he redeemed himself in Portland the year after, but the Rockets this series were 15th in the West to begin the season, and then James Harden goes on a historic run. February and January of 2019, James Harden was probably the greatest peak we could probably say. Top 5 peak for sure, James Harden in that stretch. At one point in 1 week, he averaged 54 points a game. 2K numbers right there in real life by James Harden. But I want to get into the playoff aspect of this in 2019 because they ended up playing in the 2nd round this time. The Warriors beat the Clippers in 6. The Rockets for a second straight year beat the Jazz, and they get matched up in the 2nd round. And the thing is, how the series went in 2019, the Rockets, they needed a win. They were desperate. They could have probably blown up the roster or something because if they lost the series. And even with KD going down in Game 5, I honestly thought the Rockets could come back and win this series if Kevin Durant was injured. Because the Warriors, they win the first 2 games of the series to go up 2-0. The Rockets fire back 2-2, tie up the series. Game 5 was a big deciding game. Kevin Durant was actually playing really well in these playoffs. 2019 Kevin Durant, great playoff performances, especially in that series against the Rockets. Steph Curry actually struggled in these playoffs. Klay Thompson, I feel like too, also struggled in these playoffs in 2019, in the first 2 rounds mostly. But honestly, with Kevin Durant going down in Game 5, and the Rockets literally shutting out Steph Curry in the first half. I'm not even joking, Steph Curry had 0 points in Game 6, first half of that series, and then he scores 33 points in the second half of Game 6 to close out the series and end the Rockets' dreams of winning a championship ever again. And this shows that we can't count out Steph Curry at times. Even when he got kicked off the court in that game pre-game, and then he has 0 points in the first half, something might be working. But then Curry, 33 points in the second half, no Kevin Durant, to eliminate the Rockets again for the 4th time in 5 years? That's just some great play for them right there. And that just shows the heart of a champion by the Warriors. Now, honestly, I want to say this. James Harden has honestly had some bad playoff moments, and I feel like under the bright lights has choked against the Warriors especially. I don't know what it is with James Harden, but he seems to just not be able to get past the Warriors in the playoffs. And let me just say one last thing before I sign off, that this rivalry actually defined an era of basketball where 3-point shooting definitely changed the game around in this era, and Analytics took the center stage about the three-point shooting going on. This was mostly just a passionate series. Both teams wanted to win, and they were pushing each other to the limit. But I have some questions to ask, so let me begin by saying, what do you actually think could have happened if the Rockets could have stayed healthy or beat the Warriors? Had Chris Paul not got injured in the 2018 Western Conference Finals, do you think the Rockets would be able to win that series and go on to win the championship? Do Harden and Chris Paul win a ring together? But let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos like these that I make, and I will catch you next time.